studio who grew up with that character, you never saw people with accents the same again. So for that, I apologize. I apologize for all those who struggle for it. And then I would also say, like, for those who discovered it later, what a gift. What a gift that the parents, the young parents, can share that with their kids somehow in a world where technology has made this so much more possible than before. So, you know, when I created that character, they just let me fly. I would literally do the weirdest things. And they were like, very good. Very good, moving on. Cut, moving on. And I was like, you sure? Okay. And they were asking me, like, what else do you want to do? I'm like, oh, I want to dance. So they would do like these dance episodes, and I would just... But I remember that, who remembers the disco episode when we went to the disco? So in the 70s show, we had an episode, I think it was probably around the first season, I think it was. And they asked me, would you be down to do a disco episode where you guys are gonna go to Kenosha and like, you know, go to the disco? And I said, yeah, that sounds fun. And then I did this whole dance number where I like slide across the floor, and then the whole dance number with Jackie. And that was the first moment when the writers were like, this character is more than just like a single line. Like, there's a versatility to this character that was never expected. And if you guys remember from the late 80s and early 90s and early 2000s, if you played a character like Fez, like, that's it. That's all you did. Congratulations, that's like the character you'll be remembered for, and that's what it is, you know? But the character was given so much space to grow, to build, to have its own stories, to carry their own scenes, and his own scenes. And it was like one of those conversations that felt like evergreen with the writers. So like, what else do you want to do? What else do you want to do? And like, I want to sing, or like, I want to play Ricky Ricardo in a dream sequence, you know, like, you know, and you know, all those different things that would come up, but the characters started becoming, you know, taking flight. And we will have a live audience every Friday night. We would shoot in front of a live audience like this, and we would shoot a sitcom, you know, so we would have 250 audience members laughing live that evening. And I remember when the kids would, you know, come out to say hi to the audience, like you could feel that there was something happening, because we were so different than television. Like television, most of the veterans in television looked at us as like the punk rock to music. Like they didn't want to acknowledge us as like real music. You know, they didn't think we were like a real comedy. But we were like, what was next, right? We were like bending the rules and genre of comedy and trying to really go for the funny. And so this character became this like secret weapon, you know, like they would just put me in these scenes to make sure that like something, if like a scene was a little story heavy, they're like, oh, bring Fest, like just let him do something, whatever. And like it got to the point where I would play with my audience at home and in there, and I would just get laughs out of like making faces, like it would be like weird, like I would just be listening, and then I'd do something like, and people were like, what? How was that funny, you know? But it became, the character became so familiar to people that people really took him in. And yeah, and it felt like somebody knew someone, either that innocent, that naive, or that weird. And it became very quotable. It has so many things that get quoted at me when I'm at restaurants. It's pretty intense. Some very inappropriate stuff.
How about thinking about our lives being in character and doing a little bit of a stretch or a reach sometimes, and just allowing folks to hear you say, you did that, and it worked, and it allowed you to be who you were even more. Now, Fez stood for what, foreign exchange student?
Yeah, so
a lot of folks don't always.
So yeah, when I read the script, it was described as FES, which stood for foreign exchange student. And they named them Fez because they didn't know what ethnicity they were going to cast, and they felt like, okay, once we get the ethnicity, then we give them the appropriate name. But then when I read that, I took that as, oh, they don't know where he's from, so I can just come up with an accent that doesn't even phrase where he's from. So like you didn't know if he was like Indian or if he was Latino or if he was like Islander or Polynesian. Like you didn't know. Like he was this character that was such a like where is Fez from? So I used that to create a character that could be so unpredictable that no matter what he said, you had to give him reasonable doubt that like maybe in his country it's like that, or so I could get away with anything I wanted to do on television. And so I was the character that pioneerly said a lot of inappropriate words on primetime, you know, because I just didn't know any better, you know.
And they continued to fall in love with it, which was so cool. But that's also your versatility and your ability to adapt. And you think about all of that challenge that you had gone through. Nothing was going to be too hard. It was just going to be work. And you really leaned into that and got that feedback from one another. Talk about the awards for that show.
I think the funniest awards for us were when we got like Teen Choice Awards stuff. Because we were the same age as those that were giving us those awards. We were like, okay, the Teen Choice Awards, like screw it, Emmy, let's go with the Teen Choice Awards. Because it came from the fans, right? Like it was the fans saying like, hey man, you're one of us, you know, and now we're all here, right? Like we all kind of grew up with this show, you know. That was kind of the anthem to our generation, and dare I say that like most comedy today is not as funny as like that moment in time, you know. And so I'm blessed that it still holds up well. But yeah, man, I had retired The Voice for so many years, and then they did that '90s show. And then they asked me, would you return? And it was the same creators of the '70s show, so I was like, well, you guys gave me my start. You changed my life. Absolutely, whatever you need, I'll come back. And they asked me, what do you think Fez will be doing now in like the '90s? What do you think he'd be doing? And I said, well, obviously, he'd be the Paul Mitchell of Wisconsin. Obviously, he'd have a chain of hair salons and his own shampoo line and like public access commercials. 100%. And they looked at me, they're like, brilliant! You know, so the birth of Chess Fez, you know, happened. And then I had to remind myself, oh my God, can I still do that voice? And like I remember the first table read. This was like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I think, or whatever. And I remember that first table read, and I was like, and everyone was like kind of holding their breath, like, here comes the guy, and let me see if he's gonna sound the same. And the conversation was like, I had two choices. Either one, all of a sudden Fez had a perfect American accent, which I thought would be hilarious, right? Like all of a sudden he lost his accent, or he like had the same accent and never changed. And I thought like, wait, people want to hear the accent. So as soon as I said, hello, Sugar Pants. I mean, everyone's like, still got it. So it worked. But again, like, you know, that voice, just doing that voice brings something out of all of us somehow, you know, and it just kind of, it like teleports you back, don't you think? Kind of teleports you back to these moments where you're like in front of the TV with your family, and all of a sudden here comes this little brown character going down the stairs, and all of a sudden he puts his hands in his waist and he just goes, yes. You know, it's pretty remarkable. But I'm so grateful. And to those of you who remember him fondly, I love you guys. Thank you.
Woo! So we're going to take another leg of the journey.